What's up, y'all? This is John from the One Carolina Show. So I saw this clip and I wanted to address this. This is something I had talked about on the show one time before, but I didn't really go into like far detail about it. Something that I feel like is necessary to talk about at a little bit, more, to talk about it more extensively, I should say, right? So I saw this clip and there's been a lot of talk. I made a video on Saturday, I believe it was, about the preseason game. What felt like the lack of effort that we saw. Some people would say, not as serious, it's just the preseason or whatever. I would disagree with that. And here's why. And it's twofold. So as you saw in the thumbnail, this is more of something that I believe is the next step in the maturation process of Bryce Young, right? So there's a clip floating around from the 2015 season. The Panthers social media team has been posting a lot of different clips from the 2015 season and things that took place during that time. A lot of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of interviews with former players and coaches. But there was one clip that started floating around today, and it was of Ron Rivera, right? So Ron Rivera is in the locker room absolutely hammering these dudes about a preseason game. Yes, a preseason game, right? Where starters played, right? And there was, well, I guess what looked to be a lack of effort. And he's like, hey guys, listen, if you guys want to win a Super Bowl, right? The kind of effort that it takes, you got to step on throats like right away. This can't be something that's done like down the road. You can't pick up this intensity. You have to come out the gate with this, right? And I think that that's one of the things that we have not seen as much. So I'll start with the coaching staff, right? I love seeing those clips. I talked about this in that first preseason game. There was a clip, if you watch the All 22, Darren Bates comes just beelining from the sideline up to from the back part of the sideline up through the front when McMillan caught his first pass, right? And I mean, just beelined up to him, yelling on the sideline, snot coming out of the nose, dread shaking, all that kind of stuff. And some people are looking like that. Come on, man, you're doing too much. No. That's what you want. You want that kind of intensity, right? And I think that we have some guys on this roster that have some intensity like that. But as Kendrick's song say, it's not enough. We need more. Derek Brown, we got it. We need more. You can see it from Lathan Ransom. We need more. You can see it from Nick Scorton. We need more. But there's one person in particular that we need it from more than anybody else on this roster. Two people, really, in my opinion. Number one were the same two people that we saw it from in that clip from the Panthers, right? Ron Rivera is absolutely tearing into this team. Pissed. We need the intensity like now. Not yesterday, not in a joint practice, right now, right? Two, Cam Newton. You can hear him say it. Hey, man, look, we just got to step it up next time. You should take it personal, right? Take it personal. Let's get better. Break the huddle. I think that's the next step in the maturation of Bryce Young, right? I think Bryce Young is one of the most talented quarterbacks from a anticipation perspective, from his mind. To overcome what he overcame to become who he is no small feat, and that's no pun intended, right? But you can't get as far as he got with that at that size and not be supremely talented. But as we've seen from the quarterback who was drafted 6th round, 199th overall, that went on to become the best quarterback ever, it doesn't just take that. I mean, this guy was talking about buying houses before he even made the initial 53-man roster, Tom Brady, right? And it's like, wait, what? His agent's like, what are you talking about? But he knew, I'm going to beat these guys out. I know it, right? Because I know that I know that I know. And I think somewhere deep inside of him, Bryce has that same kind of confidence. But I also believe that Bryce has played for a lot of coaches that usually have that type of intensity, so he doesn't necessarily have to. What do I mean by that? Mater Dei, one of the best high schools in the nation. You don't coach Mater Dei without being an ultimate leader of men. Alabama, Nick Saban, Bill O'Brien when he was there, right? These are big personality guys. in places where normally the coach is the big personality. But when you get to the NFL, it goes to another level, right? I just don't think that at that position, especially with what we've seen historically, you can be passive aggressive and be an ultimate champion in this league. Can you be a good quarterback? Sure. But even the people that we think are the most passive aggressive, if you really dig deep enough, you'll find like, oh, these guys were like intense behind the scenes. Guys like Phillip Rivers, who never won a championship, but willed the Chargers to some of the best records they've ever had, right? Guys like Drew Brees, undersized guy, goes to New Orleans, a city that ain't never won nothing, and we hope don't never win nothing. But a city that's never won anything, and he becomes the unequivocal, like, emotional leader for that team, right? Now, even with Drew, it took some time. Sean Payton's a, high-wired guy. So eventually it's going to happen. But a lot of this, like, kind of what feels like, and I'm not saying this definitively, man, but it just feels like an attitude of just kind of like, California cool, all that kind of stuff. And look, y'all know I am Bryce and Dave Canales. I don't think it's going to get any better than that for us for the time being. So I'm a huge advocate for both. But I just firmly believe that the intensity level has to step up. I have to be willing to get in some guys' faces if you're missing a block. I have to be willing to come to you and have a hard conversation if you don't run the correct route. I'm okay with getting that coaching from my coaches because I know I have to be better. They've already showed me that they'll do it. They benched me, right? But that's the next step because the talent is there. The potentially otherworldly talent is there. What Bryce does from an anticipation perspective, it's not common, right? It's hard to do. It's really hard to do. But that next step of like now becoming the like, this is my team vocal kind of I'm not saying it has to be like super intense, like, but it does have to, you have to hear it. You need to see it. And maybe it's happening. I can't say that definitively. But when I see last week, the kind of like sort of passive effort for a team that was 5-12 that had the worst defense in the league, you know what I'm saying? Like passes being dropped, stuff like that. Hey, yes, it's okay. Clap, handshake on the sideline. But hey, maybe behind the scenes, JT, man, you want to be an all-world tight end. You want to be the next version of Greg and some of these great tight ends that exist in this league. You can't drop passes like that. You can't let it go through your hands. Cannot do it. And furthermore, look, Bryce, if you want to be the next great Panther quarterback, can't airmail a ball to T-Mac. Now, this stuff is going to happen. Nobody's going to be perfect in this situation, right? But it just feels to me like from an accountability perspective, you would just see that kind of leaking through the pores of the team. And you just don't look, I'm not trying to overreact, but it just doesn't feel like you see it as much. So I feel like the next step in that process is to get to that point, because I think if he does, man, sky's the limit for this team. But it has to be him. It has to be him. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate it has to rest on the shoulders of somebody 5'10", right? The whole city. But when you're taking number one overall and you have this kind of talent and this kind of ability, like the next step in that, because we've seen some greatness, man. We've seen some stuff to be extremely excited about. We've seen some stuff to be extremely concerned about. Many of you may think that, John, this is an overreaction, but let me tell you why it's not. Unfortunately for Bryce, this may be the last chance that he gets as a starting quarterback for the Panthers anyway, right? Because this upcoming draft, there are some guys. You cannot afford a slow start, right? You cannot afford it. There's a lot of guys, and we know how this goes. Many coaches want to have their own players. They want to draft their own guys. So, unfortunately, fair or unfair, this may be the only chance that he gets to really prove it. Does that mean that we have to go 15-2 or something crazy like that? No, that's not what needs to happen, right? If that does, then that would be an unbelievable surprise to say the least. But whatever happens with this team, it can't happen. The positive has to happen not in spite of him, but because of him, and the negative can't happen because of him, right? So I think that part of the intensity that I'm speaking of is like the gravity of understanding that situation of like, hey, my career may be laying in the balance off of this one season. Let's pick it up. Let's get going. So I just thought I would share that. I saw that video and I thought that was really interesting. Y'all let me know what you think below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. My name's John from the One Carolina Show. Not Couch Chronicles today. Today is Family Rules Chronicle, Walls Chronicles. But we getting back to studio work soon. But until then, keep pounding.